Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for joining us. It's another edition of Catholic Cocktails. This is the weekly video production of Salt and Light Catholic Radio in Boise, Idaho. And it is based on this book here, Drinking with the Saints, The Sinner's Guide to a Holy Happy Hour by Michael P. Foley.
So as you know, each week we come here to the harp, we introduce the saint and the drink of that week, whether the saint's day be on the day we release the episode or during that week. We talk about the drink. We have the bartender introduce the drink. They tell us what goes into it and how to make it. Then we send it over to Teresa. She sends it back to us. We try the drink and talk a little bit about the saint.
Sounds exhausting. But it's actually quite entertaining, so stick around. Don't touch that dial. All right, this week the saint that we're highlighting is Saint Lupas, which you may not know anything about. And the cocktail that we're going to be making is called the Burgundy Bishop.
Yes.
So the ingredients that you're going to need for this drink, you're going to need some light rum, some lemon juice, simple syrup, and a Burgundy wine, or maybe a Pinot Noir if you want to get fancy, and some fruit to sprinkle on top just to flex.
Yeah, out here flexing with that fruit. I was not expecting that. As far as hardware and glassware goes for this drink, you will need, of course, a shaker, strainer, some ice, and then a highball glass, or you can put it in a tumbler glass / old-fashioned, whatever you call it. But that's what you're going to need.
So now we know what we're going to make and sort of how we're going to make it. Let's learn more about St. Lupas. Here is our area saint expert, Teresa Zepeda.
On September 1st, the Church celebrates the feast day of St. Lupas of Sens. But let me warn you, he goes by many monikers. For example, Lu, Loop, Lo, Lupo, and Wolf. I may be referring to him by any of those names. He was born in 573 in Orleans, France. His father was a member of the royal house of the Kingdom of Burgundy. He had two maternal uncles who oversaw his education and eventual ordination. He was a monk at Les Rennes, where he was noted for his love of music and his love of the poor. He practiced great generosity to the poor. He was well loved by all the people, so that when in 609, the Archbishop of Sens died, the people clamored for Lou to be elevated to the episcopacy. And the king acquiesced to their demands. Now, as is often the case, good people often have their detractors, and so it was with Saint Lupo. There was a politically ambitious abbot and a member of the court who concocted a lie about Lou and another woman and inappropriate behavior. Sadly, King Clotaire II took this opportunity to exile Saint Lo. The reason being was Saint Lupas had been hesitant at recognizing his legitimacy on the throne as the king of Burgundy. And St. Lupas also insisted that the will of the king was superseded by the will of God. And so, as I said, the king took this opportunity to banish him or exile him to a region in France that was predominantly pagan. I'm reminded of that scripture quote from Exodus in reference to Joseph and his brothers, where it says, what they intended for evil, God intended for good. For while Saint Lupo was in this predominantly pagan region of France, he converted a majority of the people, including the governor. Well, meanwhile, back in Sens, France, this politically ambitious abbot, who ended up taking Lupus's place as archbishop, and In a riot of the townspeople, he was killed. And once again, the people demanded that their rightful archbishop be returned to them. And so the king returned Saint Wolf from his exile. Saint Lupus was able to spend the rest of his days shepherding his flock. He died of natural causes in 623. A story that indicates his great humility says that before he died, he asked that he not be buried in the cathedral, but under the gutter of the Basilica of St. Columba. Fortunately, in 853, his relics were taken and put in the new cathedral, a much more fitting resting place for this saint. We are left with a legend regarding St. Lupus that during the consecration at Mass, he elevated the chalice and a jewel descended from heaven and dropped into the cup. Now, for his feast day, we'll be giving you the drink, Burgundy Bishop, to elevate in honor of St. Lupus of Sens.
As always, we film here at the beautiful Harp Irish Pub in Meridian, Idaho, and we have a new bartender for you to be introduced to today. It is Erica, and she is scared to death to be here on the other side of the bar of me, but hey, I have that effect on women, I guess. So anyway, walk us through how we make a Burgundy Bishop.
Well, here's so all we gotta do is some rum of your preference, or white one, lime juice, simple syrup, Burgundy wine, garnished with lime.
Okay, now there is a little trick that she's going to pull up her sleeve here in just a little bit about how to make this. We're going to create an illusion, I think. When it comes to rum, do you have a particular favorite, or are we just pulling one off the shelf? Okay.
I mean, I really don't have a preference.
Okay.
I'm not picky.
All right.
So.
Neither am I. So let's step back and watch Erica make the Burgundy Bishop.
All right, so I'm going to totally tell you how to finalize a Burgundy Bishop. So you're going to do an ounce of your rum, pour it in, half an ounce of lemon juice, and then 2 teaspoons of simple syrup. All right, and then you're going to stir, shake it up over ice. Okay. And then last part is the Burgundy wine. And voila.
Okay, this is Last Call. It's the part of the program that contains some fun facts or maybe some final thoughts about the saint or the drink. Before we get to that, I guess we probably should try it.
Maybe, probably.
So
yeah.
we have a couple of different experiments here. This one we used a little bit too much Burgundy, so that's basically all we tasted in that one.
Yeah.
So the one that Erica made correctly, that
it is.
looks different. So ladies first, we'll let you
that.
try that.
There's even some layering happening.
Yeah, that was the illusion that I was
She did an
alluding to
excellent job.
earlier was, yeah, I like layered drinks. I don't know how bartenders pull those off, but it's pretty cool.
They're killing
So let's see what it tastes like.
Oh yeah,
Much better?
much better.
Okay.
That is night and day difference.
All right. Yeah, that
See?
is much better.
Yeah, that was awesome. It's very sangria-y is what
Yeah.
I was thinking of.
I'm a big fan of sangria.
But there's lots of that sweet lemon candy type.
And we were talking about flexing with fruit earlier, so if you wanted to put all kinds of stuff in there, I guess that's basically what it would be as a
actually
sangria.
says fruits. Multiple,
Fruits.
fruits. Multiple fruits.
There is another drink in the book, Drinking with the Saints, called the Diamond Cocktail, which is gin, lemon and lime juice, grenadine, and champagne. And the reason for that is St. Lupus was associated with the wine region of Champagne.
Right.
So it says here the counts of Champagne would make pilgrimages to the magnificent churches where relics were kept. So a couple different ways that you can celebrate this saint.
There's some really cool different drinks in there. So he's got lots of options going on for him, which I think is also maybe in association with how many nicknames he had.
He did have a lot, yeah. Teresa was using all kinds of different names when she was describing him to us.
Yes.
So I would be confused. Have to try to answer to all these different names. But so what did you get out of what Teresa had shared with us?
Well, I think the main thing that I got from her talk was kind of humility, even when, he was royalty, right? I mean, he was part of a big family in a big area, and then he became the bishop, and during that time period, bishops would kind of become, they're like royalty themselves. The church was a mainstay in society, and so if you were a bishop, you were treated as royalty. And so for him to hold on to his humility and to really live a virtuous lifestyle, even with all of the attention and money and all the material things that he had, I think it's just a great example. I mean, it's hard to do today, and I'm sure it was then. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've never been wealthy, so I'd like to think that I would be humble if I were wealthy. If someone wants to give us some money, test out the theory, I'm welcome to it.
I know, yeah. Just let me win the Powerball real quick, and I will practice my humility.
Something else, patience, especially when we're dealing with difficult people. I think we've all got a story or two that we can share about that. So how do you deal with difficult people?
Funny enough, we were talking about this on the morning show.
Yes, we were.
I don't know. I think trying to say a little prayer or recognizing that you're irritated, I think, is the main issue, because a lot of people, they don't recognize it, and then afterwards, they feel regret or they feel bad about it. So I think training yourself to kind of recognize, all right, I'm feeling really irritated and frustrated right now, so I'm going to take that step back, maybe say a little prayer, and then continue moving forward. And that can help you kind of see where that other person's coming from and maybe why they're pushing your buttons, you might say.
Yeah. So maybe recognize those people in your life that do push your buttons. I don't know that I would avoid them. I would just maybe take that as an opportunity to exercise your patience.
Yes.
Pray for grace, pray for empathy.
Blessing in disguise.
Yeah, there you go. And work on those virtues.
Huzzah.
All right. Well, special thanks once again to the crew down here at the Harp Irish Pub for another wonderful episode of Catholic Cocktails. And thanks to Teresa Zapeta for telling us all about St. Lupus.
Yes.
So what do we got coming up next week?
Alrighty. So next week we are going to be learning about the Nativity of our Blessed Mother and trying a special amaretto drink that is a surprise.
Okay. The player to be named later, apparently.
Exactly.
So,
TBD.
TBD. Well, until then, St. Lupus, pray for us. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.